My real name is Lawrence Joel Cohen, but everybody calls me Doc. Since I was 16 years old, I've been Doc. That's my pharmacy background. I was a senior vice president of a drugstore chain out in California. I became an early victim of corporate downsizing, except back then we called it getting fired. So, so I didn't have a job. My sister saw this startup franchise in Atlanta called Great American Cookies. Back then it was the original Great American Cookie Company. It's been reduced down now to Great American Cookies. And so, I went and looked at it and I thought, you know how many cookies you have to sell to pay the rent in one of those malls? A truckload. So at any rate, I went back to California, did some research, and I said, I think maybe I can make some money doing this. And so I agreed to be the franchisee in California. I was going to have the whole state. I was going to be really big time, until the franchisor found out they hadn't qualified in California to sell franchises. And so I ended up from California to Lafayette, Louisiana. I'd never heard of Lafayette, Louisiana. Actually, I thought Louisiana was a suburb of New Orleans. I never heard of Louisiana. But I ended up there and I opened a store, a brand new mall. And Lafayette was just a wonderful town, a wonderful place, and wonderful people to deal with. And I thoroughly enjoyed living amongst the Cajun Louisianans. It was just a whole new experience for me, one that I'll never forget and will always appreciate. The fine people in the Cajun world of Louisiana. That was fun. And then I was the first franchisee at Great American Cookies. And I was lucky that I was able to help the two founders, who were both very, very smart individuals, build out this brand. Since I was the first, they kept sending people down to look at my store and ask me, if I was happy with the brand. And of course I was. I found out there was a lot of dough in cookies. From there I expanded. Next one was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then my landlord in Lafayette had a mall in Panama City, and he said, you got to be my cookie guy in Panama City. And so I went there, and one thing led to another and started growing, and ended up moving to Houston and opening 30 some stores in 7 states over a period of 35, 40 years, I think. Became the largest franchisee at Great American Cookies and had the first store do $1 million in sales. Grew it to where we had 4 stores doing $1 million in sales. And then I got involved. Franchisees were invited to join the International Franchise Association, the IFA. And Great American founders asked me to represent the company at IFA, and I said, sure, I would do that. And I did, and then I got active in the Franchise Association, and I was only the second franchisee ever to chair the board at the IFA. And after my term there, they asked me to be chairman of the foundation. So I chaired the foundation for a couple of years, helped raise $8 million toward education, franchise education. Next thing you know, here I am. I think you have to learn what franchising is about, first of all. Not everybody should be in franchising. Most people can be. I mean, I was a corporate executive. I was used to having things my way, right? But when you get into a franchise, you have to learn, this is how we do it here. So if you want to make the cookies a little bit smaller so you can make more money, well, you can't be part of Great American Cookies. You go open Doc's Cookies, all right? So I never did that. You grow with the franchise as you grow, as you move through time. Things are changing all around you, so you have to adapt. You have to constantly remake yourself. And our brand did that. Our founders were smart enough to continue to remake the company and remake the product. We had a major change to our product about 5 years in, I think, because we saw competition coming in with a higher quality product. And so we had to adapt and change to a higher quality product. They reinvented the recipe. Oh my God, that scared the heck out of me. We were doing so well with what we had. Why are we going to change it, But we went with a better chocolate and a better formula, and you know what happened? Our sales went up. The biggest problem for us when being mall-based was, how do we pay the rent in these malls? And the rents kept going up. And so we had to keep raising the price of the cookies. I remember how scared I was when we went above 99 cents. You know, when I started, we were 29 cents. And over the years, we got to 99 cents. And I said, oh my God, I'm gonna be out of business. We can't go over $1. You know, that's just terrible. You know what people think today? They think they're paying, if you ask in the study group, how much are the cookies? They'll tell you they're $2. And we're really $1.69. But the average consumer thinks they're paying $2. So, you know, there's room for us to grow in price, which enables us to stay in the mall that we're in and pay the higher and higher rents. And all of our costs go up. Look at labor today. The cost of labor is just amazing. And we try to keep our costs as a percentage of sales. And as labor costs, hourly rates go up, well, what do? We have to increase the cost of our product. And so we have to make sure that the perceived value is still there. If the consumer doesn't see the perceived value, they're not going to stop buying the product. But we still sell as many cookies as we used to, and more, and people are willing to pay the price because the quality is there. But what my philosophy is customer service. You know, I used to like to take in our management meetings and put an organization chart up on the wall, and the top box I'd leave blank. Right? And I'd go around the room and I'd say, all right, who goes in the top box? And, you know, I'd get all these answers. Oh, you do. You're the president of the company. No, I don't belong in the top box. Okay, well, then the vice president of operations goes there. No, that's not who goes in the top box. Finally, after going all the way around the room, I said, who goes in the top box? And finally, somebody puts their hand, well, in the back of the room quietly, the customer. The customer goes in the top box. You don't work for me. I work for the customer, and if you do too, that's who you work for. If we don't make them happy, we're out of business. They're paying my salary, they're paying your salary. Make the customer happy. Do what they ask you to do. Give them what they want. You know, we have a product that has 2 cookies with a cream filling in the middle of it. We call it Double Doozy. One of my managers invented that product. It used to be just 2 original chocolate chip cookies. Well, somebody came up one day and said, how would you like you to make that for me with double fudge cookies? Well, it was not part of our menu. So technically we couldn't do it, but the customer asked for it. You know what? Of course we'll do that for you. And that's the name of the game. If you're in retail, give the customer what they want. If it's there and we can do it physically, do it. Give them what they want. And this was one of my pet subjects when we would have management meetings and company meetings with all of our associates. Our customers are guests. They're not customers, they're guests in our store. Welcome them as guests. And I would say, look, if 2 guests approach the counter at the same time, and one of them is wearing a fine tailor-made silk suit and has an assistant carrying their packages with them, and you can tell they're just very wealthy, probably has their private jet. And the other person is a kid with torn jeans and a sort of worn out t-shirt. I want both of them to get equal treatment. They are both the same to me, and they're both our guests, and they get treated equally. I don't care if this one's going to spend $100 and this one's barely able to spend $1. They get equal treatment. I don't care who they are or what they look like. So what makes a company successful? Okay? My company was all about people. And so in order to keep and attract good people, I want them to fit in with our culture. Well, what is our culture? Our culture is who we are. It's how we treat people. It's how we react with one another, how we respect each other, how we dignify what we do. And, you know, I've been at this BAI conference now for 3 days. 3 days, not a lot of time to really understand the culture of a company, but boy, they exude this culture that I respect and that I would demand from my people. They respect one another, and they all, you know, they're competitors, but they're sharing ideas. This is amazing that you have competitors looking for the same customer, and yet they're willing to help each other. That's a family. It's not just people attending a convention as individuals and companies that don't have anything to do with one another. They work together because if they share best practices, all boats rise at the same time, right? I don't like to use analogies and things, but it's true. These competitors can share best practices and raise the culture and the professionalism of the entire group. Because when I spoke to the group, I said, you want to be recognized as the folks who are out front doing the right thing and progressing with the culture of the country and with the culture of your customers and the people who come to you for advice, because you're the one advising these people. It's what kind of franchise do you want to buy? That's important. It's kind of like what happens with me and our people when we're hiring kids that are in high school. We're the first employer of those kids most of the time. I would rather take a kid who's never worked anywhere and bring them in and teach them how to be part of our company, because they don't have any bad habits yet. I want to teach them good habits. And so here, what I see at BAI is you've got brokers who have been doing this a long time and brokers who are new at it. And the brokers who are new at it are learning from the seniors. They're sharing their best practices with these folks so that they don't make the same mistakes that they made on their way up. You know, they're building a bridge for the folks who follow them. I'm really big about bridge building. I read this poem when I was in college. It was in my fraternity handbook, actually. It's called The Bridge Builder. And it talks about this old man who's on a long travel, and he comes to this huge, wide, and deep chasm. And he gets across and gets to the other side. And he looks back and he starts building a bridge back across the way. And a young traveler comes along and he watches this old man building the bridge. And he says to him, "Old man, why are you building this bridge? You've already crossed." He says, "I'm building the bridge for you so that you don't have as difficult a time crossing as I had." And so I believe in building bridges. And that's what I saw here at BAI. I saw these senior, experienced brokers and consultants who are building the bridge for these younger kids who are just coming along and wanting to know how to do this. And I think that's a very, very valuable thing. And that's where your culture is. That's the kind of culture that builds success.